Hello everyone, Mrs. Ryan back again to tell you this time a little bit about surface areas of triangular prisms. Okay, so here's an example of a triangular prism. If you were with me a while ago, we did some cross sections of prisms and we talked about this triangular prism. All right, but now what we want to do is we want to try and figure out the surface area or what would be covering it. Okay, so from your notes it says, remember to find surface area, you need to find the area of all the faces of the prism. Okay, and surface area is what would be covering it. So one way that you can do that is to identify the shapes of the faces and how many of each shape make up the triangular prism. So this kind of looks, now the dimensions are a little bit different than what you have on your example here, but it's still in the same shape, right? Kind of looks the same here. So we have a triangle here and we have a triangle in the back, right? Okay, so those two triangles are the same thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to write down we have two triangles. All right, and then I'm going to write down that they are identical, because once we find one, we're just going to double the area because we have two of them here. Okay, all right, then with this particular one, this is actually a special triangle here. Okay, it is down here also on your paper. It's going to have two sides that are the same, and that's called an isosceles triangle, if you remember that from before. All right, but so what that's going to do is we're going to have a rectangle face here, a rectangle face here, and one down at the bottom. So if you look at that, since we have this one would be 17 by 11, this one over here would be 17 by 11, so two of them are going to be the same, and this one down here is going to be different because we're going to have a 16 and 11. So it's going to be made up of three rectangles. All right, and two of them are identical. Okay, so that's going to help us to figure out what our areas are going to be. Okay, so what you have to do is refer back to the formula sheet that you've gotten before. Okay, so let's do the triangle one first. So if you look at your area formula for the triangle, is 1/2 the base times the height. All right, so I'm going to start off, then I'm going to say I have two of these. And so it's the area, and I'm going to put a little triangle there so I know that it's my triangle formula. So I have 1/2 the base times the height. Okay, so 1/2, and we're just looking at that triangle right there. Okay, the base of the triangle is the 16. All right, the height of the triangle is this 15. Okay, don't confuse it with any other, think of the base of your prism or anything, don't confuse it with that. You're just looking at the triangle there. Okay, so if I multiply that together, all right, that's going to give me 120 if you put that in your calculator. But remember, we had two of them. All right, so that's going to give us 2 times 120, which gives us 240 for those two faces. Okay, and we should have 5 faces altogether, right? Because we said there was 2 triangles and 3 rectangles. Okay, all right, so let's do our base of our triangular prism here first. Okay, so this time I'm going to do our area, and this time it's a rectangle, and I'm going to write the word base under here so that we realize that it's coming from the base. All right, so if you look at your formula for a rectangle from your formula sheet, it's length times width. Okay, so I have a 16 and I have an 11 here. Again, it does not matter which one is the length and which one is the width. Okay, so that's going to give me 16 times 11. 16 times 11 is going to give us 178. I'm going to go back here and circle that 240. I'm going to circle this 176 because those are pieces that we're going to be putting together here then. I only have one of these, so I'm not going to do any multiplying by anything here. Okay, we need to find the area of another rectangle. Okay, and that's going to be like this side here. Okay, but remember the side over here, these two sides are going to be the same. Okay, so I'm going to have 2 of them. So again, I'm going to write a 2 up here. And my formula is going to be the same, length times width. All right, this time I have a 17 times 11. All right, so 17 times 11, if you put that in your calculator, we're going to get 187. All right, so we're going to have 2 times 187. And that's going to give me 300 274 if I multiply that together. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put those numbers together. Remember, there were 2 triangles. Make sure we have our 5 parts. There were 2 here, so 2 and 2 is 4, and this one will give us 5. So if I add these 3 numbers together, since we had some matching, we're going to have our surface area is equal to 240 plus 176 plus 374. So if we add those all together, we're going to get 790 meters squared. Okay, a little more complicated than the rectangular prism, but if you just take it part by part, it's not that hard. You're just putting different things together, okay? Parts that you know how to do, you're just putting it together, making a multi-step problem. All right? Okay, let's look at one more. I know I have 2 more on my paper here, but we're just going to look at one more to save a little bit of time here. So if I look at this one, a little bit different here because this time it's a right rectangular prism because we have a right angle here. If you see that little box there that tells me I have a 90-degree angle there. So again, we want to see what is this made up of? Well, I have a triangle here. I have a triangle back here. Those 2 triangles would be the same, so I'm going to have 2 triangles. And again, they are going to be identical. So when I find the area of one, I'm going to double it, okay? And this time, let's see. So I have this rectangle that would be a 13 by 4, kind of on the slant part there, okay? If I look at the back portion here, that's going to be 5 inches. And if this is 4 inches, that's going to come up here. So that's going to be a 5 by 4, so that's different than this one. And if I look at the bottom of my triangular prism, I have this rectangle down here that is 12 by 4. So I have 3 rectangles, and this time none of those are identical. So we're going to have to do 3 different areas for those. Okay, so let's start with the triangles. So again, I'm going to say my area, and I'm going to put a triangle there. And if you remember, we just talked, that's 1/2 the base times the height. So if we plug that in, I'm going to have 1/2 times. Now, the base of my triangle would be this 12. So I'm looking just at my triangle part right here. Okay, see that triangle? So my base is 12. The height is 5. Okay, so if I do 1/2 times 12 times 5, that's going to give me a 30, okay? But remember, we had 2 of these, so let me put 2 up here. We have 2, so we're going to have 2 times 30, which is going to give us a 60, all right? I'm going to go ahead and circle that. All right, so let's go ahead and try and find one of my, I'm going to move over here to give myself some room, an area of a rectangle. Let's go ahead and do this bottom one here first, of the base. All right, so the area formula for a rectangle is length times width. All right, so my length is 12, my width is 4, so we're going to have 12 times 4. 12 times 4 is going to give us a 48. So I'm going to circle that. Remember, we should have 5 different parts here. Remember, this is 2 of them together, though. All right, so let's do another rectangle here. This time, let's do this back one. Okay, at least that's what I'm going to call it here, the back, the way that it's facing us. So again, it's length times width. So this time we're going to have a 5 and a 4. 5 times 4. 5 times 4 is going to give us a 20, and I'm going to circle that one. All right, so we have one more rectangle here to go. Again, it's length times width is our formula. All right, and I'm going to call this the top of it, okay? Kind of the slanty part there. So we have a 13 and we have a 4. So 13 times 4, and if we multiply that together, 13 times 4 is going to give us a 52. All right, so remember there's 2 faces here. 3, 4, 5, so we have our 5 faces. So we're going to say our surface area is going to be 60 plus 48 plus 20 plus 52. So if we add all of those together, our surface area for that triangular prism is going to give us 180, and this time it's inches squared. Okay, so again, break it apart to what you have, decide whether or not, sometimes you'll have things that are identical, sometimes you won't, okay? And then you're going to find the triangles that you're always going to have, since it's a triangular prism, you are going to, and they're your bases, you are going to have two triangles that are going to be identical. It's the rectangles that you're going to have to figure out if they're the same or not, okay? All right, now you can go ahead and try some problems on your own.